Hello everyone, Happy New Year, welcome to 2018 and 3.0 of the Alpha Persistent Universe in Star Citizen. Today we're going to take a day trip to Daymar to do a trading run in the Freelancer. And like most of my ships, she's quivering and shaking in anticipation on the landing pad at Port Olisar. So, all the usual stuff, walk up, press F for inner thought, find the prompt and enter the ship. Oh, I do like the side door in the Freelancer. I use it all the time rather than the rear ramp. And they've done a fantastic job on the interior. So, usual startup procedure for me, mobi-glass first. Set your navigation path, choose Daymar as the destination, close the mobi-glass, then start the ship using the flight ready command. And the reason I do that is because sometimes you get things like this. And what I've found is get the landing gear up as quickly as possible. And if you've got a nav point set in the mobi-glass or on the star map, they seem to recover quicker from those strange physics grid issues. So, all the usual things, press and hold B to quantum travel, and off we go. Some strange sound glitches there. I think that was probably me alt-tabbing across to check on the recording software. Should settle down now that we're into the flight properly. Okay, we're going to Bountiful Harvest first. So just find it on Daymar, and its distance means that a quantum jump to the orbital marker is going to be the first thing that we do, because that will cut the distance from 400 and something kilometers down to 200 and something, and we can then just drive in on afterburner once we get lined up. Now, if you've not done one of these drive-ins before, you don't point directly at where you're going. You find it on the planet, and then you bring your crosshairs down to just outside atmosphere, and that's where you do your afterburner travel to. Because that way you can use maximum SCM speed in afterburner without having to worry about burning fuel while you're in atmosphere. And once we've got her up to speed, settled on the course, because it'll take a couple of minutes to get there, just spin the ship to keep the target in the window, Bountiful Harvest, just to the left of the speed scale. And I'm just going to do a quick cut to where we're getting to the point where we're going to descend to the surface. Now, what I'm going to do here, keep my finger on the afterburner key, which is the shift key, and I'm just going to very slowly turn the ship until she's pointing at where we want to go, because we don't want to bleed off any speed, otherwise the flight takes too long. If you do this nice and slow, you don't really use any fuel. Go. Slippy finger on the mouse. So there we are, coming up on pointing at the target now. And whilst we're doing that turn, we shortened the range by 25 kilometers. We did burn a little bit of fuel. You notice it dropped from 100 to 99% on the top of the scale. But I'm not worried about that. We recovered it already in straight flight. Now this star map for the local moon pops up. Just press F, use your mouse cursor, take the scale down to 25%, and you get it off your screen. And as we're dropping in, I want to be out of afterburner speed and down to normal SCM speed by the time that I hit 20 kilometers from the target. I've actually dropped speed a little bit early there because if you look at the red diamond right next to Bountiful Harvest, that's the center of the moon, which means that we're coming down effectively at 90 degrees to the surface. And because of that, we're going to slow down slower. In other words, it's going to take longer to slow down, so I've decelerated early. Now I've got a little formula that I use to try to avoid smacking into the planet. It works very well in the Freelancer, it also works in the Cutlass, and also in some of the slower small ships, such as the Avenger. And that is that you want to be at 100% normal SCM speed, not afterburner speed, by the time you hit the 10 kilometers from target mark. At 7.5 kilometers or 7,500 meters, you want to be at 75% SCM. At 5,000 or 5 kilometers, you want to be at 50%, and at 2,500, you want to be at 25%. So using that formula, you should be slow enough that by the time you hit somewhere between 1,000 and 500 meters from the target, you can drop the undercarriage and it will bring you down to somewhere around about 25 meters per second, and that's, you know, the fastest that you want to be approaching the final approach for landing. So we've just dropped under the 10,000 meters, and as we come to the 7,500 meters, we drop the speed down somewhere around about 75%. It doesn't have to be dead on 75. And as we drop closer and get to 5,000 or 5,000 meters, we'll drop it to 50%. There we go. And you can see that it's giving us lots of time to drop the speed. And then as we hit 2,500 meters or 2,500 meters, we'll drop it to 25%. There we go. Now look at the Freelancer's radar. It's not working. It's a bug of some sort, a glitch. That's going to be important in a second, and you'll see why. Now as we get down towards about 1,000 meters, we're going to drop the undercarriage. And maybe I'm pushing it in a little tighter.
Landing gear down.
There we go. And that just brings us right down to a crawl at a nice height for picking exactly which bit of dirt we're going to land on. And I can see the 2 rows of 3 solar panels each side of the entrance of the main building, so I want to be in that patch of dirt to the left, which I know has got plenty of space for the Freelancer to land. And hello, another Freelancer snuck right in on me, less than a couple of 100 meters away, never even showed up on radar. So I'll just strafe right, get out of his way, because he's obviously going to try and take the patch of ground that I want. But this is where practice comes in, because having dropped into Bountiful Harvest many a time on this patch, I know exactly where I can put my Freelancer without landing it on any of the outposts facilities, or indeed on that big rock that's just under the nose of the Freelancer right now. So bring it in, level it off a bit, get the horizon level, and you notice the artificial horizon hasn't popped up. And then I'll just drop her down, just do an external view to make sure I'm missing that rock, drop the nose a bit further because it was too high, and put the ship down. There we are, she's landed. Now we've got another ship in the vicinity, so I'm not going to shut her down completely. I'm going to just engine off. That way the shields stay up in case they decide to start griefing me. Exit. Head down to the side door. Use the ladder. That way they can't enter the ship while I'm exiting. ship automatically returns the ladder and closes the door. I go recycle the airlock. Just check if they came in behind me. Ah, yeah, they did. They have not got a weapon in their hand. So let's just get to the trade terminal first. And because they're not using a weapon and they're not trying to grief me, I'm not going to strip out everything that's for sale. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take about half a cargo load of foodstuffs, and I'm going to sell some of that when we go to the next station. And I'm also going to take some distilled spirits with me, but not too much, because I know from experience that the other stations we're going to often cannot buy more than 3 or 4 SCU of spirits. Don't know if it's a game restriction or if it's a trading restriction or whatever, but I don't want to be carrying illegal goods, which distilled spirits are. They're classed as vice goods. I don't want to be carrying them back to Olisar. So we put about 30 SCU of food in and about 6 of distilled spirits, which still leaves us 30 of space. But as we're going to be selling some of the food and the distilled spirits as we go to the other stations, we'll gradually fill the ship up on other goods, hopefully with a higher profit margin. Now I just want to check that somebody didn't sneak on board, as well as make sure the cargo is there. So let's just do a quick run around the cargo hold, make sure there's nobody down here. There we go. Nobody in the co-pilot seats, nobody in the upper bunks, which you can't see as you come to the cockpit. You have to stop at the cockpit, turn around and look into them. So, first things first, get rid of that star map. Press F and click on the 25% scale marker. Engine on. And strafe up. That's what she said. And then just pitch at your round until we find Kudre, because Kudre mining is the closest outpost to Bountiful Harvest, so that's where we're going next. And it's just a short hop, so I'll show you how I do it. I just head out with a few degrees of climb. Take it up to max normal SCM, and as we gain altitude the maximum safe speed increases, so I can then apply a bit of afterburner. The engines do get quite noisy at this phase. As we climb, we keep increasing the maximum safe speed as the atmosphere thins, so I keep adding a bit more speed, initially in steps of about 100 meters per second. That just helps us to accelerate to a higher altitude quicker. Once we get to about 9,000 meters altitude, we can apply 100% afterburner. It doesn't really take that long to get there. Probably somewhere between half a minute and a minute using the Z key to free look, keep looking down, make sure we're on course for our next outpost. So now we can just apply the afterburner, get straight up to full afterburner speed. There we go, 1004 meters per second. Freelancer's quite slow at full afterburner, and as we get higher into the atmosphere, the strain on the engines eases off. I'm just trying to bring the nose down a bit because I don't want to be climbing too high. And we've got Kudre this side of the horizon now, and getting some strange sort of server desync here because the afterburner's not kicking in again. Eventually it will. There we go. While we're accelerating, we're getting quite a heavy engine noise. And if you notice, the hydrogen fuel has dropped to 97%, and that beep and this sudden lack of sound is because for some reason Windows decided I wanted to turn on sticky keys, and I had to Alt-Tab across to a different window and tell it, no, I don't want it, go away. That's being polite about it. I bet you Bill Gates' ears were burning. Anyway, right, so we're still climbing, and I don't really want to be climbing. I want to be keeping the horizon in view, and we're about 30 odd kilometers out. We can start the descent now down to Kudre, and you can already start to see that Kudre is in a valley or a canyon. So the final 1,000 meters into Kudre, you just need to be a little bit careful and aware of the ground, because the top of the plateaus either side of Kudre are quite a bit higher, about 300-400 meters higher than Kudre. And we're just going to approach the same way as before, but this time, because we're coming in at a much shallower angle to the surface, we can actually leave the braking quite a bit later, because our braking thrusters will be far more effective. Now, I'm also doing that because I have a feeling that other Freelancer might be trying to race me here in order to get the higher profit commodities off the cargo terminal. So I want to try and get in before him, and that will have me leaving the deceleration until quite a bit later. That was the plan anyway. As you'll see, it didn't quite work out. Now that sound, I'm not sure if that's a proximity alert or if that's the comms system telling me that somebody is hailing me. I don't have radar, so I don't know if there's another ship in the vicinity. I don't know if there's a key to turn the radar on. I haven't checked. Hopefully there is, and the fact that the radar is off is actually my fault rather than a bug, and I really must check into that. As we're coming into Kudre, we've already dropped to around 50% on SCM. We'll be dropping to 25% shortly. There we go. You notice I'm making use of the side canyon in order to come in at a quite an aggressive angle, because obviously the canyon walls are lower where that side canyon is. And again, there's that strange alarm, and then we have the danger, more ships in the area music. And I can't see any on the ground. Where are they? They must be in the air. And what are they? And oh dear, it's a cutlass. Is this guy a pirate? Doesn't seem to be. He's pointing his stern at me, which is not an aggressive posture. I'd say he's also not quite as experienced a pilot as me, judging by the attitude of his ship and where he seems to want to drop it. And where he's trying to drop it is exactly where I wanted to go, because normally I put my nose just to the right of those two mining units with my tail between the rocks. There's just enough space there to get a Freelancer in. And yep, he's put his port rear undercarriage onto the cargo or mining unit. Finally he's got it down level. Okay, so I can't actually get in there now because his starboard engine is taking up space that I would normally have part of my fuselage in. So I'm going to have to go for this other open space just to his front, which is going to potentially put me in a vulnerable position for his guns if he decides to start shooting from the ground. Same approach as before, come in at an angle, bring the nose up, go to external view, make sure the ship's level, bring her down, just make sure that none of the rocks are going to clip my wings or appear underneath my undercarriage. That's quite a bumpy landing for me. I'm normally a lot smoother than that. And again, engine off rather than power off. That leaves the shields up if somebody decides to start shooting at my ship. And out of the side door. That way I know that they can't sneak in while I'm exiting. And the ship will also automatically withdraw the ladder and close the door again. So I don't want to run across the front of his ship in case he uses it as an opportunity to shoot at me. So I'm going to go around the back. And he obviously thought I was going to board him, because rather than exit his ship, he decided to raise his ramp. It's alright, mate. I'm not coming to steal your ship or shoot you in the head or anything. I'm after cargo. And that sounds like he's just started his engines up again. No, he's still there. He is taking off though. Question is, when my back was turned, did he drop another crewman to go and steal my ship? No. Let's just have a look a minute. His name's not showing up on the local contact list. Okay, let's go and sort the trades out. Let's just sell off some of what we bought at Bountiful. Get rid of all the distilled spirits. And we'll get rid of about the amount of food that we know that Kudre will buy, and Kudre doesn't buy a lot of anything. Even though the slider goes all the way to the right there, if you try to sell your entire load, you'll probably get a failed transaction. So I want to sell about 5 SCU of food, and I did that wrong because I sold less than the 5 SCU. I should let the slider just go over the top, because that means I've got a nearly empty box on the cargo grid. Right, Laranite, high value item. And again, I did this wrong. Notice the quantity, 462. It's almost 5 SCU. But again, I've got a part full box in the hold. I should have tried to get that as close as exactly to the full box's value as I could. And barrel's not a huge profit, so I'm not going to take too much. Take just under the full 6 SCU, trying to maximize the boxes. That's all the trading that we can do here. There's nothing else there that's worth taking, because you won't make very much profit on it. Now I'm going to go out without a weapon in my hands, because if he's waiting out here, I don't want him taking it as a hostile move. And he has gone away, or he appears to have gone away. His ship's not here, unless he's parked it on the other side of the building. And as long as he's not being aggressive, I don't really care where he's at. So back to the Freelancer. However, let's just give the ship an internal sweep, looking for unwanted passengers. We'll go aboard with the SMG ready. Quick check of the bunks. No. Let's go check the cargo. He's not in the middle cargo. Do a quick sweep in the corners before we enter the cargo bay. No, not down here. Okay, is he in the cockpit? No. Not in the top bunks. Would have been a bit late checking the top bunks if he was in there, because he'd have got me in the back of the head. Alright. That checking the magazine was me actually pressing the R button, which used to be the button for putting your weapon away. So once again, this space map thing's come up. Press F, bring the mouse down, click on 25% to get rid of it. Engines on.
Engines off. Engines on.
Let the ship just settle a little and then strafe up. Put the landing gear away. Now the next one that we're going to go to is Shubin. And that's quite a way away. That's over 300 kilometers. So we'll get our heading right. And it's sort of that away. Let's just get moving and start gaining some altitude. And it's pretty much a repeat of the previous hop from Bountiful to Kudre, except it's a longer one. So I'm going to cut out several minutes of the flight and just deal with the takeoff that we're watching now, and then switch to the approach. So here we are up on the edge of atmosphere, just dropping the nose to come down. Oh, sorry, no we're not. We're actually skipping along the edge of atmosphere. we shouldn't really at this speed be getting that re-entry effect. I think that's something that CIG are going to have to fine-tune in the graphics. And there's Crusader off to our port side. Nice downward view onto the moon. It's very pretty, this game, when you're flying along. And I still maintain they've done a wonderful job on the modelling for the Freelancer. I know it's not everybody's favourite ship or style of ship, but I like it. And the more that I fly it, the more that I'm quite determined that I'm going to have a selection of Freelancers for doing these solo missions with the space to take passengers. So we start our descent down towards Shubin, coming in at a similar angle to that which we used to approach Kudre, and we're starting from a greater height as well. So I'm holding the afterburner speed, not pressing the button, I'm just holding on to the speed until we've reduced the distance down to Shubin. So at 24,000 meters altitude, I'm starting to drop the speed off just by tapping the S button. And then we'll just basically glide in at normal maximum SCM. And again, coming into Shubin, I'll demonstrate bleeding the speed off at those altitudes. So remember the magic formula, 10,000 meters or 100 meters, you want to be at 100% SCM. At 7,500 meters you want to be at 75%. At 5,000 meters or 5,000 meters you want to be at 50%. And at 2,500 or 2,500 meters you want to be at 25%. And then once you're down to somewhere between 800 and 1,000 meters, drop the undercarriage to get down to the pre-flight speeds, which allows you precision maneuvering. Now, because I'm racing in expecting this Cutlass to be coming in behind me somewhere, trying to beat me to the next cargo terminal, I'm actually not going to call up Shubin Air Traffic Control. They never answer anyway, ignorant beggars. So I'm just going to come in, swing around the outpost and park alongside the building with the cargo terminal in it. And as the outpost starts to take shape on the ground, I start to drop my speed down a bit further and start to make out the buildings and the landing pads. There's the landing gear down. Now the furthest away landing pad, the small one, at its bottom left corner is the building with the cargo terminal in it. It's the smallest building. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down towards that empty sand to the right of the landing pad, and then I'm going to swing round, level up, and I'm going to fly over the landing pad and land on the sand behind it. Bit of strafe right just to get in the correct position. There we are. Level her up. Bring her to a respectable halt. And just a fine adjustment, and then strafe down until I land. Just make sure there's nothing underneath me as I go down. The nose was a bit high, now it's a bit low. So we just adjust that. And there we are, we're down. That looked like quite a thump on the landing, but it was actually a fairly soft landing. It was just a firm one. So engine off, keep the shields up in case anybody decides to start shooting at me from outside of the armistice zone. And exit the ship the same way as before. I was kind of expecting the machine gun to appear in my hands, but it didn't, so I'll just have a third person view of myself sprinting across the sand and into the trade terminal building. This is the same building where you deliver or collect packages that are for the missions. Here's the trade terminal ahead of us. Just nod to the deliveries guy. Let's see what we can buy and sell here. Just select the Freelancer. Oh, they got diamonds. Have they got a lot or not? It's not bad. 17 SCU of diamonds, not to be sniffed at. It's not enough for a full hold, which is why I didn't sell any of the food. Now we've got to figure out. Well, we could sell some food. Don't want to sell a lot, just sell a little bit and make sure we got some cash recovered from the hops between the outposts. Try and sell 5 SCU. I hate these sliders. I wish they'd just put a box in it where you can tap in or a little on-screen keyboard where you can tap in the quantity to sell. Oh, grr. Can't get it to sell exactly, but this time at least it's just over the box rather than just under it. And that leaves me 18 SCU that I can carry. So let's have a think. Probably Corundum. All the rest of them don't really, you know, you make like 1 UEC per unit. Corundum, at least you make 2 or 3. So we'll take that, I think, yeah. And we'll just fill the ship with it because we're going back to Olisar from here. Now, because I've just been a little bit careless on the quantities on this trip, I've probably got 2, maybe 3 SCU of empty space in the boxes that are on the ship. If I was taking my time a little bit more and not worrying about other players turning up where I'm at, then I'd probably have had those 2 or 3 SCU filled, and I'd make just a little bit more off the trip. Trying to get the gun out, it won't let me. No idea why. But again, just in case there was some shipless pilot hanging around at Shubin who thought he might have an opportunity when he saw me coming in, we'll just check out the ship. That looks like there's a box missing up there. Almost looks like they've shortchanged me on the number of boxes. Just do a run round, and it's sort of at this point that it occurred to me I really should check the turret in case I've got a passenger sitting in the turret, but yeah, we'll risk it. So, check the beds, check the cockpit. No, yeah, obviously decided that the door locking system is working. Not going to bother. Again, get rid of that bloody star map. Engines on.
Engines off. Engines on.
Okay, vertical strafe to take off.
Launch sequence complete. Landing gear up.
Get rid of the landing gear. Position for a flight. And whoa, what? The dreaded Shubin physics grid bug attacks me again. This has got to be a priority fix for CIG as soon as they get back from the Christmas break. Okay, the ship's stabilized. Now it's stabilized quite quickly because I got the landing gear up quickly. If I'd left the landing gear down, we'd have been bouncing around for a couple of minutes. I think that gap in the canyon wall is the direction for Crusader and Port Olisar, so we're going to head out that way. Certainly on the flight in, Crusader was off in this direction, and we weren't out of the ship very long at all. So let's just get up into space. First, let's see if we can spot Crusader while we're still climbing. And we seem to have lost left and right rudder. You can see the mouse cursor is moving side to side, but the ship's not. And now we've lost pitch as well, so let's just go outside the ship, press the Z key, go back in, see if that returns it. Well, we've got pitch. I just want to look to the side using the Z key first. Let's just see if we've got... no, we don't seem to have rudder. This is not good news. Still got pitch. So while I have a think about this, let's just head into space, and we'll just increase the ship speed, get the altitude that we need quicker, and just wondering why we haven't got rudder. Looks like the Z key, the free look key, is interfering with some of the other keybinds at times. So once we get up to somewhere around about 30,000 meters, then we can begin orbiting the moon and trying to locate Crusader and Port Olisar beside it. The eagle-eyed among you will have noticed that I've not selected Port Olisar or Crusader in the Mobiglass on the star map. That's because I want to make use of the orbital markers on the moon. And let's just have a quick scan outside the ship looking for Crusader. Can't see it, that means it's somewhere on the other side of the moon. And At the moment we're heading directly away from the moon. We need to make a 90-degree left or right turn at least to get around the moon. So let's just get back into the cockpit. Or if you're using Z in free look outside the ship, always put it back to being behind your ship before you go back in. Right, so there's Crusader, it's obstructed, Port Olisar, it's obstructed. That comm array is not, so that tells us, as we look at the star map now, we're to the right of Daymar. So that means that we need to turn right to orbit around the moon. And we're going to have quite a bit of orbiting to do, so I'm not worried about the hydrogen fuel. We'll recover it before we make the quantum jump. So the very fact that we're bleeding off speed like crazy is not a problem. What I want to do is I want to get Daymar visible in the cockpit window. There we go. That's about the angle that we want to cut across the moon now. Whoops. Still can't see it from outside the ship either. So let's just afterburner here, traverse the moon. Definitely no sign of Crusader or Olisar on the navigation markers down at the bottom of the screen. So a bit of boost, a bit of afterburner I should say, not boost. You notice how much quicker here in space we get up to full afterburner speed compared to when we're on the planet. So we'll just burn along like this, have a look outside the ship, see if we can see Crusader coming up anywhere, because as soon as we see Crusader we know the direction we've got to go, because Olisar is orbiting Crusader. It's still to the other side of the moon. Yeah, it's definitely not visible from where we are right now. So back into the cockpit, and we flew along for quite a while like this. I chopped out several minutes, and here at this point we should be starting to get ready to view it. No idea what that little bleep is that's coming up. Again, I don't know if it's a sound for somebody hailing me or not, but let's just zoom into the dashboard star map, and you notice it doesn't show up the same sort of navigation paths that you get from the Mobiglass, which kind of makes me think that this is glitched out as well. So, I didn't mean to do that. It took a while to be able to recover the afterburner capability there, but we got it in the end. Let's just check the star map. Right, so Olisar and Yella are both obstructed. That comm array is not, so we're definitely on the right hand side of Daymar as we're looking at it. Let's just set Olisar as our destination, and we're looking for a red navigation marker to come up on the HUD where Olisar would be obstructed. It's definitely not above us anyway. Can't see Crusader as yet. Crusader's got to be out there somewhere. It's that sort of direction in relation to us and Daymar. Should be coming up somewhere around about where the cockpit of the Freelancer is on the horizon of Daymar. That's where I'm expecting it to come up anyway, that sort of angle. Let's just hold this view for a minute or two and see if it does appear. Very tranquil out here. It's a much more pleasant experience when you're not getting jumped every 30 seconds either by pirates or by other players. So, still hasn't shown up yet. Let's see if it's turned up on the HUD yet. Just get the exterior view camera in the right angle for landing before we go back into the cockpit. That's about right. So there we are, and yep, there it is. That little red triangle down there, or red diamond triangle, that's the obstructed Port Olisar. So that's where we want to be heading. However, we need to get around the planet a bit more, so there's no need to change course. We'll just hold this course for a little bit. Just try to tighten the orbit, which is the equivalent of cutting a corner in your car. So there it is. We're just watching for that red dot to move across the HUD and get directly below the crosshairs, and then we can bring the nose down a little bit towards it. So there we are. We're at least heading in one axis towards where Olisar is going to be. Now we just need to bring the nose down a little bit so that we're reducing the angle. And yeah, it's now showing with the obstructed text within the HUD when we look down. So we've improved the flight path towards it. And if we have another look from outside, we should be able to see Crusader. There she is. Crusader starting to rise above the horizon of Daymar, so that we know we're definitely on the right path. And we'll just leave this view for a minute or so and watch Crusader rising to meet us. And this is part of the amazing graphics that CIG have put together in this game. So the pale planet below us is actually the moon Daymar, which is one of Crusader's moons that we were just running around on and hopping from outpost to outpost on the surface of. And the striped planet rising above the horizon of Daymar is Crusader, the parent planet that Daymar is one of the moons for. And we're heading to an orbital station at Crusader, which is Port Olisar, or returning to it I should say, because that's where we left from. Once that red nav marker turns blue, we'll be able to quantum jump, and it will take us seconds to cover a distance many times more than the distance that we've travelled whilst orbiting this moon to get it back into view. slowly bring the nose down. We don't want to descend into atmosphere because that will obstruct the quantum jump. There we are. How's that for a view? The planet and its moon. And we're flying above them in a ship that we can leave to continue flying, get out of the pilot seat, walk around the ship, inspect our cargo, jump up in that turret, do a few practice shots if we want to, and then get back in the pilot seat and continue flying. And this is part of the game experience that you don't get in any of the other current space games. Seamless flight from Port Olisar. There you are, it's turned blue now, so we can redirect the ship and quantum jump across to it. A seamless flight from Port Olisar out into space, down onto the surface of the moon, run around on the moon, and again my finger slipped on the mouse. Jump from outpost to outpost on the moon, and then get back in the ship, fly up to space seamlessly, and orbit the moon, and then return to Port Olisar, orbiting the parent planet of the moon. And as I said, it only takes a few seconds to quantum back. Now, we got the jammed throttle bug returning, so we can't drop the speed. You notice we've dropped the throttle, but the speed isn't dropping, so just a quick tap on the afterburner button and it brings the throttle back to responding. That allows us to slow down and stop, reposition or reorient our attitude to the space station so that we can get aligned for coming in on the landing pads. Bring it in closer, and put the landing gear down, bring the ship to a stop, open the Moby glass, open the comms channels, contact Port Olisar landing services.
Please proceed to assigned landing bay.
Close the Moby glass, and there's the marker for where we have to land. And it's as simple as that. And yet I see people landing at Port Olisar without landing permission and earning themselves a crime stat. There's no need to. Not unless you want to be a criminal, of course. Excuse me. There are some people that actually think it's a badge of honor to have a crime stat. So as we creep into the landing pad, and in many ways this reminds me of programs when I was younger, programs like Space 1999 and Babylon 5 and all of those fantastic TV series, just coming in with a controlled flight. Almost a bit like the start of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And then the autopilot taking over to bring the ship down onto the landing pad.
Landing successful.
All very nice and
Landing
graceful.
complete. Have a pleasant stay.
Thank you. Very nice and graceful. No need to be racing around at full speed all the time. Just slow down. Enjoy the experience. So there we are, we're back at Olisar. Let's go sell our cargo. See how much in terms of United Earth credits we made for ourselves. Yeah, I know. They're alpha United Earth credits. They're only good in the alpha version of the development universe. So let's just head across, down the tunnel, through the airlock, And the weapon shadow glitch is back. I don't know if you noticed, you could not see the stock, the shadow of the stock of my SMG on the wall as we came down the stairs. Let's just take a walk through the OLAP hall, see how many players are about. Nobody in here, but the NPCs are staring intently at the wall again. I think we should get some dunce hats for them. Okay, let's start selling the cargo. Alright. Select sell. Select the ship. And then one by one sell off the cargoes. Laranite will be a good earner. And the processed food, because there's so much of it, will be a reasonable earner as well. There we go. Now you can scroll back to the beginning of the video and verify these numbers. But at the start of the video, as we took off from Olisar, you'd actually first see it when we landed at Bountiful. We started with just under 720,000 Alpha UEC. We finished the mission with just under 788,000. And we've got a profit of just under 69,000 from that trip. Plus a little over an hour's fun flying. So there you are. Hope that's useful to you in many ways. Subscribe to the channel, give the video a like, appreciate it, it helps me a lot. Thanks for watching.